Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host, and I have a special guest on today. Can't wait to introduce you guys. Stay with us. Hey, good morning. And today I have a special guest on that this guy he's written a book. He's a life coach. He's definitely broken through some walls in life. So I'm going to let him tell his story. Let me welcome my buddy Scott MacMillan to the show. Scott, welcome.
Hey, hi Ken. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Or is it J. Scott MacMillan?
Well, J. Scott is sort of my author name, my pen name, but I just go by Scott.
Love that, man. Love that. I need to come up with one of those, an author name.
Yeah, it's cool. You can say, that's my pen name.
Yeah. I have a lot of people call me K-Dubs. Maybe I'll go by K-Dubs.
K-Dubs. K-Dub. Yeah, I like it.
So you're joining us from the Kansas City area this morning. Right. And you know, we talked a little bit before the show. It sounds like you've been through some ups and downs, but I created this show about 2.5 years ago. Interviewed over 250 celebrities and entrepreneurs and man, it's been an incredible journey. And you know, it's really, I created this to help people get unstuck in life because we all get there.
You do. Yeah. One way or the other, whether you think you're gonna or not, you get there.
Look, it already stuck. Jose Garza is gonna make it stick. That's good. So why don't we start, Scott? Why don't we start with where you were born and raised?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the beautiful state of Montana, and up in the northwest area called Kalispell. And oh gosh, there's my cat. I forgot my cat's locked in here. 1 second. Out of here, boy.
We got to get rid of the cat.
Oh my God, he was hiding in the corner. That's hilarious. Okay, funny. So yeah, born and raised in Montana, and beautiful state. Loved it. Although I didn't appreciate the mountains like I should have, of course. You know, living there. And took me to move away. But I graduated from University of Montana there and got in my car as soon as I graduated and drove to the East Coast and said, I'm starting life because I wanted to see the big city, and really started my career out there. I graduated with a degree in psychology, but I really wanted to get into business. And I got out and found a job in the telecom industry back in the early 90s, and thought, well, this is a good place. And they trained me and I became an engineer. So go figure.
But you grew up in like your entire like school years, all that was in Montana.
Yeah, it was one of those, idyllic sort of Mayberry, little streets there. Grew up in the same house that my dad grew up in, and was able to walk to school, walk to high school. It was really great place to grow up.
Did you have to walk through 6 feet of snow?
I did. I walked uphill barefoot, 6 feet of snow. Yeah, no, it was a lot of snow for sure.
I think that for those of you who've not been to Montana, because I remember going through Montana, and it's called Big Sky Country, and there's a reason for it. It is. That's the reason. Like, you can literally see Mars. Like, you can see everything from there.
Every star, at night, because there's not a lot of, lights. You can see every star.
It's unbelievable. And I was driving through Montana on my way to Seattle, and it was nighttime. And I remember there's speed limit signs, I think, that are 85 maybe, or 80, 85.
Yeah, and one of those at a period, I can't remember when it was, they had no speed limit.
I know, and I heard that, and this has been almost 20 years ago, and I was driving, and I remember thinking, I know there's a speed limit sign of 85 or whatever it was, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to push it and do 100. So I'm doing 100 miles an hour flying through Montana because you have to. It's freaking massive. Otherwise, it'll take you 6 days.
That's right.
And so I remember I come around this curve and there's a cop sitting in one of those turnarounds and I'm doing a little over 100 miles an hour and he didn't care. Yeah, he did not care. He did not come after me. I was like, well, I love this state.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I luckily never. I would have freaked even at 100, but it's big state.
It's a huge state, and it's it's spread out. Like from what I saw, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, Montana, there's like a house every 10 miles you might see. And it's like, wow, this is like, there is nobody up here.
Yeah. So when we played our high school sports, we had to play all the other high schools in the whole state. And so we would literally drive, a day to get to the other side of the state, and we'd play 2 or 3 games there and we'd stay overnight. It was a blast in high school. Yeah. But in the middle of the winter, I played basketball. I can remember, driving in the middle of winter in these terrible storms, and our little bus would, cruise on over there. But it was because in Montana, you don't worry about ice and snow. You just drive on top of it. It's all good.
Yeah. And there's a lot of it. But anyway, so it's a beautiful state. What was it like for you as a kid? You had your mom and dad there, right? Right. And what was it like? Did you face any challenges as a kid? Because I generally find that there's something that drives us from childhood into what we become as adults. Was there a driving force, something that comes to mind when I say that?
Well, it's a really interesting story because I lived what I consider this sort of idyllic childhood life, growing up in a great area, just kind of like Mayberry, but big enough where we weren't isolated from anything. And I really had no issues. And so really I write in my book that this is sometimes a problem for some people. It was for me, is that I had no adversity. And really my story starts when I hit 40, because I had all this unmanaged stress and just building and building. And I had no idea, that I was doing it. And all of a sudden my body just gave out at 40. I had severe pain, severe back pain that almost crippled me. And I had nothing to prepare me for any sort of adversity in life, because I just cruised through life, just breezed through it. And really, sometimes that happens to us. And I write in the book that sometimes I always feel guilty about, telling my story, because people have some really, hardships as they're growing up.
Yeah.
And it really does drive them to become who they are. And so my story is a little different, but it doesn't really matter. We're all gonna have our ruts and our ups and downs, and the universe is gonna come get us at some point and wake us up. And so really age 40 is when the universe woke me up, knocked me on my ass and said, wake up, buddy. There's more to life than kind of what you've been seeing out there.
So and your degree from college was engineering? Psychology. Okay. And that makes sense that you would head to Washington, DC.
And that's the funniest thing. Yeah, I thought, I'm going to go into politics. And it was funny because I was interning for the senator from Montana there. And I would go out to lunch with all these different staffers and stuff. And it was pretty cool walking around on Capitol Hill and going to the Senate buildings and thinking I was all that. But I realized that I didn't belong there at all. I mean, at lunch, people would talk, the other interns would talk about, well, so-and-so's voting record was this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, no, I really don't care about any of that. And so I got out of there, but I stayed in there and I got into telecom. And that's where I kind of became an engineer, and my love of learning. But I do feel like I've come full circle now as a life coach to kind of come back to my psychology degree, because I've really always been a self-help junkie and love reading about how the human brain and how we're motivated.
Yeah, I love that, man. So you went to and the whole, how long were you in the DC area?
10 years. 10 years. I explored everything, but I got into my career basically there, met my family, got married, started a family there.
Okay.
And then I ended up moving to Kansas City about 25 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. So, and in Kansas City, were you still in the telecom?
Yeah. I was still in telecom. They had moved me down working for a big telecom firm here in Kansas City area, and they moved me here, and it was great. But that's about the time, like just after we moved here, and career got kind of heavy, and I'm trying to raise a family and all this stuff, and all this unmanaged stress just kind of took my life over. And some people have breakdowns, some people have depression, whatever. My body took the brunt of it, and it just sort of broke down. And I had to learn to now thank my body for waking me up. But at the time, it was not fun. I didn't know what was going on, and the doctors couldn't really find anything wrong with me. So that was the strange thing. But that's also what became clear to me. This was just unmanaged stress. This was being in a rut, just literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, everywhere.
Wow. So, and that was at 40. You were still working for that, and you're in Overland Park. I think I know the company.
Yeah, I mean, they've been through a few names now. I don't even know.
They have?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to guess Sprint.
Well, yeah, that's T-Mobile. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. So, were you at work? Were you working there still when this whole collapse happened with you?
Yeah, it was fascinating because when there's a huge Sprint campus here in Overland Park, and but when I first got here, they didn't have the campus, and they worked all over. They had buildings all over the city. Yeah. And when they were consolidating into the campus, they actually didn't have enough room for all the employees, which is funny because now it's like half empty and it's huge. But wow. They were looking for people to telecommute and work from home. And my job as I was a training developer. And at that time, it qualified. So I thought, oh, that's cool. I'll work at home. And I did it, and I loved it because it was great. My kids were kind of young, and they were in sports, and I could be there with them. And then this all hit. So it was a blessing and a curse, because the blessing, of course, I could work in my sort of corrupted situation with my stomach and my back. I could actually still work because I was working at home. Yeah. But what it did is it sort of allowed me to kind of wallow in that for longer than I probably should have, because I could kind of get away with it. Yeah. And in fact, I got laid off in 2008, and I had a sweet deal because I came from engineering. I went into training. So I was probably making more than my manager was at the time, and working from home, benefits. Oh my God, what I would give for benefits now. So I just hung in there, and Sprint was going through a lot of layoffs at the time from about 2000 on. And I hung in there every year. Then I finally got laid off, and I was just like, okay, well, this was good. You're sad for, 5 minutes, you get that call, and you're like, okay, well, now what? But I knew that was my push. And that really was sort of the push that got me to really restart my whole life in lots of ways.
So, but I mean, it had to have been more than 5 minutes.
Right, 8 minutes. I'll tell you, it was fun. You go to these. I don't know if a lot of people have been laid off in their life. It's sort of a reality for corporations,
especially in 2008, 2009.
Yeah. And so they send you to these career development centers or whatever, where they teach you how to write a resume and out and do interviews. And so there's like, okay, you got to do this many interviews, and you got to, talk to this many people. And this is how you go out and get your next job. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do that. But I'd always had this dream to be an entrepreneur, right? And so in the very corner of the booklet, it says, well, if you want to start your own business, go over here. And so I looked at that and thought, yeah, I want to start my own business. And I had a whole year of severance pay because I'd been working there for 16 years. And so I thought, okay. And so I took that path, and they were able to help me write a business plan and start my business. And so I've been an amateur photographer my whole life. And I thought, okay, I can go be a professional photographer. That's easy. I'll just hang my shingle on the door, and people come flocking to me. Well, that didn't really happen. It's a little harder than that.
Yeah. Well, I think though that it can be exciting when you reframe it, when you frame it in the right way. A buddy of mine, he's a client of mine, called me the other day and said, and we build websites, done it for 26 years, and I've been on him like, dude, you need your own personal website, you need to start your own deal, because he's been working for this company. Well, during this whole shutdown, he's like, his furlough became permanent, and he said, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to start my own deal now, and I'm like, congratulations, dude. And he feels that way too. Like, he feels like, okay, I've been putting this out for a while and now it's time, right? So I think that it can be exciting, but some people, Scott, some people get into the mindset of, poor me, look at what happened to me, I've lost my job, I want to do that, but my gosh, that's a huge risk. And what about benefits and all that, right? So I used to tell people when I hired them that work for me, like, hey, the benefits package here is you have the benefit of working for me.
You get all my knowledge and wisdom and good vibes. And I mean, the benefit is you're free to do what you want to do. Probably work, some of the hours you want to work. You've got options, and so it really is a catch-22. And I found that after being, I really, after I graduated from college, I had been working in corporations, the whole time, and entrepreneurship is so different. And it took me, I kind of laugh and joke, it took me about 6 years to kind of get the corporate stink off, just kind of like how to figure this out, and not just, you're going to get a paycheck every day and the benefits are going to come. And so you just have to have a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, 2008 for me was a great time to start a business, right? I didn't know any better. I didn't know it was a downtime. So I'm starting a business, and, I had to build my client case and whatever. And it was exciting. And I just put my head down and dove into it. And it was a really exciting time. And, I did photography. It was portrait photography.
Okay.
And so I was taking pictures of, families, little kids and high school seniors, and it was fun, and I was learning the craft, but it was overwhelming. I had to learn, I knew my way around a camera for sure, but taking professional portraits is you need some skill and some lighting stuff, which I really enjoyed as an engineer. I dove into that, but you also need to know how to make everybody happy and comfortable and smile, and that was fun. But I'd been working with, corporate, stiff white shirt collared, guys for a long time. And so working with families was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so about 2 years into it, I realized that this was going to take another good 5 years to really break through, and that I'd had my share of crying babies and dogs and everybody trying to get them to smile at the same time. And I thought, let me pivot into video, because at the time, all of our digital cameras came with video and really high quality. And so I started to pivot into doing video for small businesses, and then that kind of pivoted into social media and so on.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So you but you didn't know video.
So I didn't know video, and that was an interesting thing, but I knew photography very well. And and that really helped me, because I knew my way around the camera. But in those early days, the digital cameras that we had for still photography, they were rudimentary with video. They didn't make it easy at all. I mean, you had to work extra hard to get the video to kind of be good. I mean, the quality was good because you had that really high sensor, but it took a lot to get quality video. But that rigor helped me become really proficient at the whole sort of production side of it. And so even today, I kind of call myself an amateur documentary filmmaker, because I love to do that kind of stuff. Love to tell stories, love to use the video and music to kind of capture that story.
Love that, man. I love that. I'm with you, man. I love video. I've been doing video for a long time. I started doing video stuff before YouTube came out. So I've been doing it a long time. And I think that people are missing the boat if they're not using video for their business, that is. So you started doing this photography, the video stuff. You started doing all of this. I mean, how did that, when you moved into that, how did it go? How did it start going for you?
Well, it's an interesting transition, because I had to work through that sort of getting away from the corporate mentality.
Yeah.
And about into the third or fourth year, and I was just barely making it, and I actually stupidly, I thought, well, I'm going to go pour money and get this great studio. And I had all the lights and the backdrops and everything. And of course I couldn't really pay for the overhead, but in that first year I was just so gung ho, I went after it. But I still had that for the video as I pivoted into video. But again, it was just struggling to really make it. And I couldn't really figure out why, because I really had all the advantages. I had everything, every reason to be successful. And I was just not quite getting there. And it really, that's the transition into where I am now as a life coach, because I was entering into this stuck period. And it started in my 40s when my body gave out. And it was that's when I realized, in fact, I tell the story in the book that after about a year of this chronic pain, one day I was in the shower and I heard this voice in my head that said, "You're not living your life right. This is no way to live life." And I'm like, well, okay, what does that mean? That was the start of me like, okay, I'm not doing something right here. I'm not living life. I'm doing something wrong, because I had to quit looking outside and blaming everybody else and look inside and say, look, it must be me. That was the stretch of a long stretch of trying to figure out what this was. But it's led me to where I am now as a life coach and to get through those stuck periods. But back to the answer to that question. So it was fun. I was learning, which is my love zone. I love to learn, but I wasn't successful like I knew I could be. And part of that was this rut. I hadn't quite cleared some stuff. So as I journaled a lot, and I looked into like, why am I not? And I go to therapy and different things. And it really was, I started to unearth some of this childhood stuff, we talked about at the beginning, that they're usually the beginning of some stuff, and some stuff that I had to go back to that and find out what were some of these limiting beliefs that I created when I was really young that have carried into my adulthood and really are sabotaging me. They were sabotaging me. And I find that a lot of people have that, but you just push through it. You don't really know. And if you don't have a propensity to kind of stop, slow down, look within, and even look backwards, which that's not taught to us. That's not our culture, to stop, smell the roses, and go back and look at this. Right. And so that's what I did. And as I was writing this journaling, this book kind of formulated. And I found a guy named Joseph Campbell who created The Hero's Journey. And we'll talk about that in a minute here. But that's when the book came out. And I realized there's probably a lot of people that have had ups and downs, had good careers at times, good marriages, good families, everything, but have hit a rut and they're stuck and they don't know how to get out of it. Yeah. And by this time, I had gotten divorced. The health problem kind of got better after I got divorced. I started a new business, kind of started a whole new life. And slowly, physically and mentally, I was healing. But I was still stuck in the business. The business wasn't connecting and as successful as I knew it could be. And so this was part of that. And as I realized that I was healing myself and that this book came out that it could probably help some other people. So I went and got certified as an NLP life coach and started working with people on this kind of how to get unstuck. And so now I really found my juicy purpose. And so now I pop out of bed and I can't wait to get to work. And that was really the key to why I wasn't successful before, was that the video and the photography were fun, but they really weren't my passion. And I had to feel what was that passion.
NLP is really cool. I'm in a group with a guy named Joe Soto. I don't know if you've heard of Joe or not, but he's a master NLP certified trainer or teacher or whatever. Wyatt Woodsmall is one of the not founders, but he worked directly under I forget who, but he taught Tony Robbins NLP, Wyatt Woodsmall. And I'm in a group with Wyatt and Joe Soto and learning a lot more. I've studied NLP for years myself, and I find it unbelievably fascinating. And I think that people really need to learn a little bit more about that and the impact that it can have in their lives in a positive way. So
yeah, I agree. It's one of those areas that, it got some bad press for a while, like people were going to manipulate you with these, NLP techniques and so on. And that's really the bad rap, because is really, when it comes to it, it's understanding human behavior and just when you're communicating, how do other people communicate, because everybody communicates different. and to understand that so you can work with people because you understand how they communicate, how they're motivated, and you can ask better questions.
Yeah, I agree. So you became certified, and you said that was how long ago? A couple years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago.
Wow. And then you moved into life coaching. So you went from photography and hold it. You went from telecom engineering into photography, video, and then life coaching.
Right.
Makes perfect sense.
Perfectly.
So what was there a catalyst that kind of made you go, I need to get into life coaching?
Yeah, the catalyst was writing the book. I actually wrote a book. My first book was in internet marketing. I had been a corporate trainer for a long time, and then I had done internet marketing with the video and so on. And it was called Monetize Your Message, and it was how to create an online course and then sell it on the internet, which a lot of people are doing. I didn't really put it. It was more of a calling card, but it's still out there on Amazon. But that would give me a taste of writing. And then but I didn't really think too much of it. And as I was journaling a lot to kind of heal and understand what was going on, why wasn't I successful and so on, this book sort of formulated and it took on its life. And then I said, okay, this is going to be a book. And at that point, when I was finishing the book, it was clear that I wanted to take this message out. And I thought, well, I've got a psychology degree. Maybe I'll go back and get my master's and go into therapy. But I really didn't want to go down that route necessarily. I wanted to help people that were more like me, sort of really therapy, but they needed help. They needed a coach to help them get to that next level, get a new perspective. And then I found life coaching and thought, oh, this is perfect. And then so when I dove into it, and it's a big deal now, but even 2.5 years ago, I was just sort of starting to get big. And but it's a wonderful field because it can be in lots of different modalities and different areas. And I've struggled a little bit in the early days trying to figure out, because I have all this business background, should I do business coaching? But for me, it's really about the mindset and about the mental game. And so I talk a lot about really having to go back and kind of unearth some of these limiting beliefs. And, we don't go into psychotherapy, but I have a technique that I use that I wrote in the book using the hero's journey to go back and to understand really what was going on in your life and where were you when you were sort of in this hero's journey. And there's 12 stages in the hero's journey. And so I actually take people through all 12 stages and say, where were you in stage 1 in your life? And we talk about that. And where were you in stage 2? And we move through that. And as we do, we really understand what was going on, what created some of those limiting beliefs. And then the second part is, now that we know what those are, let's figure out how to turn those around, make those into positive, powerful beliefs. And then I really go into a lot of meditation and visualization work. And that whole energy side is now becoming more and more important to me, because it's so important to really just, one, have a positive attitude, positive thinking, but use, calm down, go within yourself and really focus on that future that you really want to be, and sort of ingrain and rewire the neural networks that, we all have in our brain. So neuroplasticity, visualization, energy, I could talk about that forever also.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you are a fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Dispenza's my man. I have to really, I credit him in the book because the second half of the book is based on his focus and his concept. And I've devoured all of his work and can't wait for one of his sessions and really immerse myself. But, so I kind of connect it to the hero's journey, which is my basic method where we start from. But yeah, I love Joe Dispenza. Love all that visualization work. I do it every day. It's changed my life.
Yeah. I can totally relate. So, and I talk a lot about that actually. I've meditated every single morning of my entire life for 17-ish years. Every morning, I will not miss it. I'll be late for a meeting before I miss meditation. So, it's just important. And I think when people learn the importance of, and I don't mean important like, filling your car up when it's on empty. I'm talking about like important when it comes to wanting to discover who you really truly are. Anyway, yeah, I'm with you, man. So you got into life coaching about a year and a half ago. Along the way, how important do you think sales has been for you? Learning how to sell.
Yeah. So I've had and I know a lot of people do this, especially if you're into the coaching or sort of the soft skill sales. And I was a trainer and so on. I was like, oh, I can't sell. I don't like to sell.
Yeah.
Right. And that negative talk alone was prohibiting me, but it was just letting that, oh, I don't like to sell. I can't sell, whatever. And that was one of the main problems I was having in my businesses. It was really between my ears. Because once I got in front of people, I was fine, but it was just that whole concept, and I just let it eat me alive. And so I'd heard, well, it's not about, pushing this on you. If you believe in your product, you just want to help people. And that seemed too simple to me. But as I learned and found what my passion was, that's really what I found is the key is like, I just talk about my passion and my purpose and what I love to do. And if you resonate with it, you're going to hire me,
Right.
and that's where that's where it changed for me, was just talking about what you love, show people, how passionate you are about it, and tell them your story. And, there's a lot about telling your story and being vulnerable, as my other hero, Brene Brown, would say.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's where it's at now. But I know, in your field, you've been in the background for a long time and have probably come through all of that scenarios.
Yeah. I think that I was just sitting here thinking about, you said at 40, your body started to break down. It's almost like a cliche that you were having a midlife crisis, physically, mentally, spiritually, probably all of those things. What are some of the things, like when you say your body started to break down, like your limbs fell off, or what?
It felt like it. It was simple. It started with a kidney stone, which are no fun if you ever had those. And so traumatic, having to drag my poor little kids out of bed, my wife taking me to the emergency room and do that whole thing. And I stayed overnight, and they gave me all these great drugs. And the next morning after I passed the stones, should have felt all this relief. And my stomach was really hurting, really sick. And I went home and I thought, oh, it's just the drugs. Well, 8 months, my stomach hurt for 8 months. I could hardly eat anything. I went to all different doctors. They scoped me from every angle and really couldn't find anything. It's sort of, at that time, it's like, oh, you have irritable bowel syndrome, like whatever that means. And so that was sort of the first start. But as I started to heal a little bit, just healing, as the body will do if you kind of get out of its way, I was out in the backyard playing catch with my son, and I noticed my right shoulder was starting to ache. And I thought, okay, whatever. And it got to the point where I better go see a doctor, and go into the doctor, and they're like, oh yeah, well, here's some drugs or whatever. I'm like, well, isn't there any? I'm like, I don't want drugs. What about physical therapy or something? Oh, okay, we'll try that. Let's go to physical therapy, and they do their thing, and it helped a little bit, but in a month or two, it was all back. And the pain in my shoulder just started to spread to the other shoulder, and then down my whole back, and to the point where I could barely walk. And again, all of the doctors, shots in my neck, all this different stuff, and it just kept getting worse. And the more doctors I saw, the more stressed out I got, the worse the pain got. All the guilt and the shame of now not being able to be a good dad and a husband at the time, just was a bad time. And then all the emotional kind of, I was just a pile of anxiety. Everything. If it would rain, I would be stressed out. If the wind blew too hard, I'd be losing it. Just a really dark time where my body was mentally and physically was just crumbling. And the doctors weren't going to help. And so it was that time in the shower that said, look inside. And that's when I started to say, well, maybe it's this stress thing. What's that all about? And I went on kind of a quest to find out what stress was all about. And that's when it started to kind of go inside. And it was a long time. It was another good 10 years before I started to really kind of uncrack the code. And then it was, well, I guess it was 16 or so years then when I finally was writing the book and really understanding this stuff. But it was a long haul to just kind of keep moving forward and digging deeper and peeling that onion back. Yeah, internal kind of what's underneath there. And the thing that I have to, tell people is that, we want a pill. We want to fix stuff fast. And this kind of stuff just isn't that way. You've got to have the patience but just take baby steps and keep going forward.
Although, and I agree with you, but don't you agree that if you have the right tools, it's learning how to use those tools that takes the time. Once you have the right tools, it can happen quickly.
Well, I've seen now that I'm kind of more adept at this, stuff happens quickly. But back in the days where I really didn't know what I was doing and I was experimenting and I was resistant because, we're resistant. And in the hero's journey, we talk a lot about refusing the call. I mean, you're going to get the call to adventure and we're going to refuse it because we're afraid. We don't want to change. We don't know what's on the other side. And so I kept refusing the call and going back to my, what was known. Even though it wasn't good, it was better than going to the unknown, right?
There's another buddy of mine, Joe Ingram, you should meet. He's an NLP expert as well.
Nice.
Great guy.
Yeah, and he says the change can be quick, and it really can. And that's the key is one, to get the right people to help you because we all need some help.
Yeah.
And I kind of fought that and kind of was going it alone. And I think if I'd have found some teachers and mentors earlier, it would have happened a lot faster. And now I can manifest stuff like this. I talk about, the meditation and the visualization work. But my muscle is honed now. Back then it was weak.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome, man. So you started the life coaching about a year and a half ago, and that's going well. When did you write your most recent book? And why don't you show that book to everybody if you would? I'm going to give you full screen here.
Yeah, this is Be the Hero of Your Life. And so it's interesting. I actually published twice. I published with both times I self-published. The first time, though, was with a division of Hay House. And they had some restrictions on what I could do and how I could price it and so on. And so I wanted to rewrite it. So I think so it was early 2019 when I first published, and then I got the book out there and got people to read it and comment on it and got some reviewers. And then I republished, but I had to rebrand. My original cover was blue and it had a whole different thing. I had to completely rebrand it, same name, and I rebranded. I had this new cover, and I love my new cover now. And so it really resonates now with you see this guy, and he's got all this chaos going on in his life, but he's got his cape on and he's leaning into it and he's working and he's figuring out through the journey how to get unstuck and move his life forward. And that really was me. And so I republished in December of this year, 2020, and have gone out and getting on the sort of the book touring circuit and get it into bookstores. I've actually got a book signing in Barnes and Noble here in Kansas City in the 18th of July. So it'll be interesting to see how that'll go with masks and the whole thing. But
now you republished in December of 2019.
Yeah, in December of 2019, excuse me. Yeah. And it's like years 2020 is a blur. Come on. It's like what year, what's going on this year?
I know.
Yes. And so, so it's been exciting. And all the long kind of working with coaches. And it's funny, I actually have started a men's group that we could get together and talk about some of this stuff on, and it was going to be a local group. And we had our first local group, what was it, February, I think. And then this all COVID thing hit or whatever, and we've pivoted. And I'm working with one of my mentors, Adam Galad, and we call it the Bold Life Brotherhood. And basically we've pivoted online. So I'm just about to turn that back on and do men's groups where we talk about the hero's journey and about living our purpose and what it's like to be a bold man. So I pivoted from doing coaching one-on-one to really online, and sort of I have that background online. So it really worked out perfect for me because I've just pivoted all my stuff to online, group coaching online with Zoom and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
That's awesome, man. So, what is it today that gets you excited and up out of bed and ready to take on the day?
Yeah. So I've really been focusing on just energy and positive energy and what that means and how to do that. And I've learned this little mantra that as soon as I wake up, I say two things to myself. What am I going to create today? And what is juicy in my life today? And it's kind of a word that some of my energy colleagues that talk about this is like, we focus on what is juicy in life. And that really means like, what fires you up? What gets you really excited? And we start to really purposely think about those things and lean into that each day. And part of that is, what can I create today? What can I create to further my purpose and my mission, which is to help people understand that no matter what's happened in your life, if you're in this stuck state right now, that there are ways to move out, ways to move forward, to get unstuck, to live really your dream life. And so, and when I work with people, we are going to go back and look at some of this. What is this limiting belief? Some of this energetic stuck energy that's been there probably since you were an infant to 8 years old, but in your youth, and just uncover it. And then just say, look, that stuff's not true anymore. You created that when you're a child to help protect you, but it's not true now as an adult. And so, but we don't stop there, because that's where this Joe Dispenza work comes in. And you're like, okay, well, now we know that that is false. Well, what's true? And then you create those powerful, positive statements, and you visualize your future. What do you want your beautiful life to look like? So you meditate, calm your mind down to get in the alpha state, and then you powerfully visualize your future, your wonderful, beautiful future, and all the emotions that are going to feel like that. And you can literally sit on your couch and evoke the emotions that you're feeling when you're doing and being that new future you. And your body doesn't know the difference than if you were out there doing it. We know that all the professional athletes visualize, Tiger Woods visualizes the perfect golf shot. We know that Steph Curry visualizes the perfect 3-point shot. You do this on your couch with your perfect life. And it's amazing if you do this every day. And it's about consistency, like you said.
Yep.
Your life will start to change. And then don't expect an outcome. Don't put an outcome on it. You build the future. You're the designer. And then the universe, your creator, God, whatever that higher power connecting of the sort of energy in the universe will then make this happen. What you are thinking about is what is building in your life. And so it's being consistent and focusing on that, and then being open to however that unfolds, because it could be way better than what you think in your puny little mind you want. But you set the design and then you let it go. And that's the power. And that's changed my life. I've seen it change a lot of other people's life. And it's what I now consider to be really juicy in my life, and how I can create and help people do that.
I love that, man. So with the when it comes to people getting stuck or being held back in life, what do you think? And I ask everybody this. So what do you think the number one thing is that holds people back in life? And I mean, everybody says fear, and I get that. But I mean, there are people that know they need to pull the trigger on something to move their life to a higher level, or they know that they hate their job and they want to start their own business, or they're in a business and it's not going as well as they think it should be, or they know it should be. They should be doing much better. What do you think is holding most people back in life?
Yeah, that's easy. I'm going to get right in the camera. I'm not good enough. That's what you're saying to yourself. And it's not true. I'm not good enough. Who am I to do this, to coach, to be successful, to lead? And it's imposter syndrome. And it's false, because you believe in yourself. There's nobody out there like you. And this sounds sort of cliche, but it's true. And you let that if you get rid of that negative thought and those negative talk and replace it with, I can do this. Of course I can do this. And open up to the receiving. That was big for me, was that I was locked down with like, not only I didn't think I could do this and I wasn't good enough, but it was this sort of, well, I'm not sure I deserve this. That's the other thing. Of course you do. Of course I do. And just shift that. And I know it sounds like it's easy for you to say, but it wasn't easy, but you have to be consistent. And once you click to being more consistent on thinking positive thoughts than the negative thoughts, that's when it all shifts. And it really is simple, but I know when you're going through it, it's not. But it's that shift of, today I'm going to have more positive thoughts than negative ones. And when the negative ones creep back up, which they're going to creep back up, acknowledge that they're there, and then get back into moving forward with the positive thoughts. Now, before I leave that topic, though, there is something to be said for not pushing away negative feelings and sorrow and suffering and pain initially. Sit with that a little bit, because there's a lot to learn from that. But you don't want to wallow in it too long, but also don't push it down right away, because then it's going to come back to haunt you bigger and greater before. I think we've all heard that. So be with that, whatever that's coming up, for a little bit, but don't know that that's not the end, that you don't have to sit there and live in that area, that sorrow, that suffering area, and switch it, even if it's baby steps. And then when you get that momentum and you start feeling strong because you've really started to call some of this stuff in your life, then just go for it. Take that momentum and just blow it out. And it is this progression. But I think that's what it is. It's that I'm not good enough, and it's false. It's a false belief that you created a long, long time ago.
Or that somebody else created for you.
Well, there's always a component of that, right? Because, there's always, trying to live up to this, and it's usually parents to some degree, or a caregiver or whatever, or friends or whatever. And you've had to protect yourself. And you did that by building walls and by closing up and by, constricting. And you need to just get that confidence. I mean, face the fear. I mean, part about the hero's journey is that every hero that we see on the screens had to go through the hard times, get past that fear to become the hero where they can save the day in the movie. And we're all like that. That's what my whole book is about, that we're all heroes, just like the ones that we see in the movies. And we all go through these different stages in life, right. And we have to, continue to move through that. And when you're in the unknown world, that sort of scary place, it's scary, it's unknown. But if you just keep pushing forward and taking baby steps, then you get that treasure. But the cool thing about the hero's journey is that seeking the reward is stage 9, and there's 12 stages. You still got these 3 stages left. And on the way home, once you think you have the treasures, once you've figured out what it is in your life that is the treasure, you've got to get home. And getting home, the universe is going to knock you on your ass a couple more times to make sure, do you really get it? Do you really think you have it? And it's that getting home all the way back to the end of that journey, where now you can tell your story. And you move into becoming a mentor because you've gone through this. Now you're going to start another journey on another area of your life, but you're now a mentor. You've now gone through it. And it's almost your responsibility now to help other people. And this is the juicy part of what a life purpose is that you've gone through your stuff and you've created what it is juicy for you. But now there's an element of always helping others in some way. And that's what I think this true purpose is. And it doesn't have to be how you make a living. It's just when you get up in the morning, how are you thinking how I can help other people and use my gifts and my talents to do that? That's what I think really a life purpose is. And it really is one of the crux of the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell talks about that. It's finding your bliss. That's the key to life. Yeah. And your bliss is that thing that lights you up. And that next level is take that, whatever lights you up, and add a little sprinkle of how can I help other people? Yeah. And you probably found your life purpose.
Love that. Sounds like Joe found his life purpose.
Joe is juicy, dancing at the club. Well,
Joe is so funny. He's such a good guy. But so when it comes to, I had this moment. It's been many years ago, probably, I don't even know, 8 years ago, I'd say. I had a bunch of employees in this office, and one of my employees comes walking in. He says, "Hey, boss, there's some dude out in the parking lot looking in the windows of your SUV." And I go, "I'm on a phone call, dude. Tell him to get the hell out of here." And he says, "Well, I would, but he's got it blocked with his tow truck." I was like, "Oh no, this is not happening right now," and so everybody was getting paid except for me and the bank, and so I could not convince this dude to not take my car, and it was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. And there are people right now that are in that place that maybe their car was just repoed, maybe the electric's getting shut off tomorrow, maybe they're at the end of their rope and they don't know what to do. They've tried everything. At that moment, I really felt like, man, I have tried everything to keep this thing going, and it's just not working, and I just lost my car, and all of this stuff, right? And so what do you say to somebody that's at that place that, I mean, dude, I have a friend that runs the suicide hotline here in the state of Ohio. He's the head of the whoa, I lost you there, Scott.
Yeah, I don't know why that happens, but there we go.
That happened earlier. But and suicides are through the roof right now. I mean, what do you say to somebody that's at that place where they've given up hope, they've lost all hope, and they don't know what to do? If they called you right now, what would you say to them?
Well, the first thing is to just breathe and to try to calm your body down, because when you're revved up, it's hard to think clearly. But And this is where it's delicate, because if you're really on the edge, that the first thing is to just calm down. And I would probably do some breathing exercises and just stay with me for a minute. Just breathe, just calm down a minute. Because I've been there. I've been where I'm having these panic attacks, right? Gosh, why does that keep happening? There we go. And so just calm down. But the next step, depending on where the person was, if they could then take that next step, is, and this is hard to hear, but it's what we all need to hear, is what are you doing in your life that's called this into your life? Or what is the meaning or the message that this is trying to teach me? And this is the point where we all have to just stop blaming the outside world and really go inside and say, what am I doing? What am I living? How am I thinking that could be causing this? And you don't have to blame it on yourself now or blame it on anything. It's not about a blame. It's about reframing the thought process. And it's that first little break that you have to get through. It's like, okay, maybe it's not this person and this thing out here that's causing this happening. Maybe it's in here. And once you break that window up, you don't have to have all the answers. And then you kind of sit with that, and then get busy doing something, get your brain going, go exercise, do something. But then you have this question that you're trying to kind of, what inside of me, what can I learn? What can I do with this? That starts to break it open. And then once you're like, okay, I'm going to look into this, then you start to journal, then you start to pray, then you start to talk to friends or therapists or whatever, needing help to kind of understand that and break that open. And I really find that that's the key, is when you can take that breath. And also then I would just suggest this, as I'm sure you kind of do to everybody too, is try some form of meditation, because it's that calming down and pushing the outside world away a little bit that really helps us all heal and be more mindful and are able to then think a little more clearly and to receive knowledge from your creator and from the universe or from whatever higher power or whatever, how you get, spirituality connection, because that's a huge part of it too, is to be open to that. I like to say that when I'm open to meditation and prayer, that I have this wire that's connected to my creator, to the higher being, to spirituality, the unknown. And that when I keep that wire clear, and I do that by meditating and thinking and praying, the clearer that wire is, the more open I am to receiving the thoughts and the connections and the beliefs that then I need to help me move forward. So it's this great combination for me about the science of meditation, visualization, neuroplasticity, but the spirituality, being open to letting the spirit talk to you, and work through you. And so I'm all about the science, but spirituality plays a big part in that.
Amen.
How'd that work? Did that work? Hi, Sandy, by the way, and my peeps on here. Some of my friends I saw pop up here.
Oh, you're friends with Sandy too?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So J. Scott MacMillan, hold up your book one more time so everybody can see it. Go pick up a copy of Be the Hero of Your Life. I'm sure it's available on Amazon.
You bet. Well, all books are sold. I'm actually working on the audio book right now. So for the audio people, soon it will be out on Audible.
That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. So, Scott, thank you. I appreciate you coming on. Where's the best place for everyone to follow you?
Yeah, so jscottmacmillan.com.
Okay. Are you on social media? You active?
Media. If you hit my website, you can find all my social media. I've got a YouTube channel. Love to make videos, of course. Love to talk about the hero's journey. Love to come back sometime if how much you know about the hero's journey, but we could geek out on Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. We could do that a whole hour, and then we'll do a Joe Dispenza version too.
And it's I'm putting your website up on the screen here. Let me make sure I get this right. Okay. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Boom. So go over to jscottmacmillan.com and follow this dude, man. You're awesome. I really appreciate
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on today. It's incredible.
Well, I am thrilled to be here. I watch your show. I love some of your guests. A lot of my friends watch your show, and it's just good, uplifting, energetic information, and it's got good information about business and life, and it's all good, man. I appreciate being on.
Man, this has been great. So everybody make sure you go follow Scott, look him up on his website, check him out on social media. Scott, thank you. Hang with me. I'm going to end the live stream, but stay with me and we can chat for a minute. Thank you to everybody that's been on here today, and anyone that shared this out. You rock. You're amazing. I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing. Scott, have a great day. Thank you so much.
You bet. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.